Attorney General Gary King is joining us in the Newsplex to talk about a new push to stop human trafficking here in New Mexico. Thanks for being here.
Nice to be here. Thanks for.
Let's stop. Let's start rather with you want to make a very clear line between the word human trafficking and human smuggling.
That's correct, and because trafficking is a crime against a person. It's bringing somebody here or holding somebody here against their will and forcing them into commercial sex or some sort of forced labor. Whereas smuggling is, and people are a little more familiar with this, is when somebody pays somebody, a coyote we call them usually, to bring them across the border without documentation or whatever. And that smuggling is generally a federal crime, is dealt with by ICE or in immigration services. Trafficking is a violent crime, and it could happen to somebody that's here in the state already. It could happen to somebody that's brought into the state. And we just passed a law about a year ago in New Mexico making it a felony in New Mexico. And so we've been training police in New Mexico to recognize the crime and to recognize the victims. And now we're having a push to try and get the public so that they understand this and might see the victims of trafficking crimes and report them to us.
How big of a problem is it here? Are we uncovering it a lot at this point?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to tell, but it's a growing crime. Certainly states around us are seeing more trafficking. My counterpart in Arizona has had several cases where people have been held hostage for ransom or forced into some kind of labor. We have charged this crime under the federal statutes a few times in New Mexico, but we feel like it's going on out there, that organized crime is getting more involved in human trafficking, and so we really want to nip it in the bud and really have an aggressive push to identify these victims of human trafficking and to bring the perpetrators to justice.
Are you finding with this human trafficking that the victims are being brought from Mexico, or are these people within the state, other states from the country?
Sure. Can be anything, but we know of cases, like a case in New Mexico that happened last year where a fellow was selling his sister to support his drug habit. That's trafficking. But we think that people are being brought in from South America, from Mexico, from Asia, from Eastern Europe. A lot of times they're picking up young women in Eastern Europe and promising them that they can do domestic work in America, and then they bring them here and they force them into either a commercial sex operation or something once they get them here. So it really comes from all over the world.
Talk about the push. I mean, you're going to start with like public service announcements, things like that?
Today we're starting a series of public service announcements to let people know that trafficking could exist in their community, talking a little bit about some of the things that you might look for, because victims of human trafficking don't self-report because they're afraid that their family's going to be injured or they're afraid that they're going to be injured, so they don't just walk up to the police and say, I'm the victim of a crime. And so we think that people might see them in their community, in the grocery stores, somewhere like that. So we have a brochure that we're making available statewide that would let people know how to recognize the victim of trafficking and how to report it to us.
Okay, thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it.